All right, hey, this is Steve and Mark. We're here today, Thursday. Where are we at today?
We're in Costa Rica.
Or are we in Puerto Rico? Where are we?
We could even be Hawaii
Yeah, we could be in St. Thomas
or Mauritius.
These are all dreams. These are all dreams. These are all dreams. This is where we. These are the places we want to be.
Right.
No, this is our virtual background today. Perfect. We actually have a table here between us, and it makes it look like that. So, Mark, what do we want to discuss today with real estate?
So, as the market has shifted and changed, it looks like special stipulations are coming back into the contract, right?
We're able to ask for things that we could not ask for 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember you had no stipulations, short due diligence days, and sometimes no appraisal contingencies or anything, right?
If you put a period on the special stipulations, you might lose the contract.
Right.
Now, we're talking about like 2020, 2022, up to recent times, So now we moved back to the new market. As listing agents and buyer agents, we're seeing special stipulations show back up.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, recently I asked for the termite inspection to be done.
Yeah.
And I hadn't done it for quite a while.
Because we were scared to.
Right. And what is the termite inspection all about again?
Just make sure that the house is free and clear of all termites. And for me, I believe that the seller should do that no matter what. I think it's a seller responsibility to tell me that if I'm buying your house that there are no termites. Georgia is one of the top 3 or 4 states in the country for termite issues.
Right.
It's just my belief that sellers should always do that. Now, when it came to VA, and this changed this year, with VA, this didn't change. You always have to have a termite letter. What changed was it could never be the veteran that paid for it. It always had to be the seller. Mm-hmm. Now, this year, it is negotiable. Right. So either one can pay for it. So VA does not allow you to buy a house without a termite letter.
Yeah, and here's another thing is that if you do put it in there,
yes,
it becomes part of not only the contract, but you have to show proof then that it's been done within the time period that you may have stipulated in the special steps, right?
That's correct, yes.
And the other thing about termite letters and just termites, I, for example, have got a termite bond in my home. And if you do have one and you are going to list your home, just reach out to your termite company and ask them to actually come around and give you the clearance letter anyway.
So the only thing to be careful with that is, like, we go back to the VA, it can't be older than 30 days old from the closing. So you don't really want to put the horse in front of the cart too far, or the cart in front of the horse. Sorry, it's backwards. This is a backwards day. But yeah, so you do have to have that. But if you, and it's good maybe knowledge, but if they're going to charge, you might want to wait till closer once you go under contract.
Right. But if you have got a bond, you can obviously just,
that's correct.
You can just get one, right?
Yeah.
And they're not expensive, even if you don't have a termite bond on your home.
No, they're not bad. And I mean, you really should have one. It's just one of those things. It's not in Georgia. It's not a matter of if you've had termites. It's a matter of when will you get termites.
Right.
So I would highly, if you're in your house and you own it, get a bond. Call a termite company. Go ahead and get it done, because when they show up, it is and I've had them in 2 houses. It is a sick feeling.
To be told that you have termites?
Yeah, well, no, to see them.
Oh.
I mean, to see them all of a sudden, you see, like, I saw a little bitty red spot on my wall, and I flicked it off, and I was like, oh God. And I cut the wall out, and there were thousands in my wall.
Really?
Yes. And so they came out and they treated it. It was fine. We caught them initially. There was not really any damage. So because it did have the bond, they came out there and they treated it and killed it. So
right.
It was just, they think about a termite can travel for hundreds of yards. Mm-hmm. So they can actually go under the slab and come up through where the plumbing comes up through the slab, and you would never know it.
Right.
That's like when you get this termite letter that we're talking about, there are exclusions in there that he says that he's not responsible for places that he can't see.
Correct.
Behind mirrors, behind certain things, behind tubs, toilets, they can't see those things. So that's why the bond is so important.
Right. So, yeah. So that's one special step that we see.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one.
And then let's talk about homes that are perhaps not in a county like Peachtree City or Newnan, that is out in the rural areas, and now you've got a septic tank, you've got a well,
yes,
and you've got all these other things. I mean, are there special steps around that?
There are. So, when you go, so back to that, mainly you see sewers just in city areas. Mm-hmm. Like you said, Peachtree City, Sonoa, Noonan. Those are going to be your areas that have sort of outside those areas in the county. It's going to be septic. So, each house is different because what they look at is they look at the number of bedrooms is what determines the septic system size, not the number of bathrooms. So you've got to look at, and then they go and they look at the kind of soil that's there today. And then they'll tell you what kind of system you can have based on that. Now, in the old days, in older houses, they did what they called a perk test.
Mm-hmm.
And that was where they dug 3 holes, they poured water into the holes, and then they measured how long it took for that hole for the water to go down. And if it did not perk at a good rate, that would mean the lot was unbuildable.
Right.
So those are some of the older methods. But today they actually go out there, dig 3 holes, they pull the dirt, and they say, oh, this is the kind of dirt that we have. And based on this dirt, it is a true soil scientist. Based on this dirt, it can take this kind of system. And then that's what they put in there.
Right. So it's based upon the rooms, not the amount of bathrooms. Because obviously rooms have people, and so many people are living there, potentially using water that obviously needs to go into the septic system.
That's correct. So you could have a 10-bathroom house.
Right. And only one person living in it.
3-bedroom house.
Right.
Yeah. And your septic system will only be based on the 3 bedrooms.
Yeah. That does make sense.
Yeah. Because it's the usage.
Right. So what sort of special step would need to be included in a purchase and sale agreement for a septic tank?
So we talked about this. I like to have the septic tank pumped out. Now, there's 2 feelings I have on that. One is, I'm under the theory of if it's not broken, don't fix it, because there's bacteria that resides inside there that helps break it all down. And when you pump it out, it does get rid of the bacteria, but that's where you just go pour Rid-X in there and it'll help build the bacteria back up. But I think it's important to, like we were talking about earlier before this, to drain the tank, because the only way to see if this leach field is backed up is if it was to flow backwards into the tank. Wow. So that would be the indicated problem. But if you don't pump the tank, then the water inside of it is high enough that would prevent you seeing that water back up. Mm-hmm. So having the septic tank pumped and a letter from the company.
Right.
Saying
that it's clear and works. And the size. I see some of the clearance certificates say that this tank, to your point,
yes,
is suitable for a 4-bedroom home. So that would be quite interesting.
And again, remember, it's not just the size of the tank. The size of the tank is indicative, but also the feet of the leach field is indicative of that also. So, you got a 1,000-gallon tank, you have 1,500-gallon tanks, and I've actually seen tanks sitting side by side that might be 1,000, so you might have 2.
Okay.
So the one will help break it down. Second one just takes the process even that much further, and then it goes out to the field. So there's just different ways of doing it. And you can always go to every county has an environmental health department. So you can always go there if you have questions about that, and they'll help guide you along the way.
Now, to the point about, having the termite data done before listing, could a person do the same thing with the septic tank?
They could. And then provide the letter and the receipt.
Right.
Yeah, you could do that right now.
Right now, as part of your listing. So it doesn't have to be then part of the special steps because it's already been done.
Correct. You just provide that to the buyer that we've had this already done. It's been completed. Here you go. And it's peace of mind for me coming in there as a buyer.
As a buyer, right. And now we're still out there, out of the city limits, and we have a well.
Yes.
Because it's quite common.
It's not as common today as it was because counties have ran water so far places, but there are still a lot that had them. Mm-hmm. There are still rural places that install them. So yes, nobody really keeps record of the depth of the well. So, only a well company that came out there and helped you with like the pump could probably gauge what the depth is. Mm-hmm.
But can it test it for things like
they do test it. So
because it still can feed the house. And I know some people have got it through to the water line of the fridge, and they're obviously using a filter in the fridge.
Correct.
To use it for drinking water.
Correct. So the environmental health department is used to test for that. There is a kit that you can buy, I believe, at Home Depot now, and test it mail it off, and then they send you the results in a couple of days.
Okay.
So, and again, always reach out to the environmental health. They'll also tell you what to do to, excuse me, to treat the water. There's different things you can do.
Okay. So we've covered termite, well, septic tank, and there's always the first contract that I ever signed or did was they told me to include a home warranty. And I thought, but isn't the home insured? And obviously, I came to understand the difference between home insurance and a home warranty.
Right.
Are we seeing home warranties being asked for again?
We are. So they were really prevalent. You know, again, it's a peace of mind deal that if I move into the house today, the fridge breaks tomorrow, I can call the warranty company.
Right.
And they cover appliances, they cover systems.
Yeah, the plumbing, the HVAC.
Different ones will cover the roof. Some will cover septics. You just have to. Each company has a different policy.
Right.
And you just have to look in there and see what it is.
Yeah, and some of them have a bit of a menu, like a food menu.
Yeah.
You can select additional components. So, for example, if there's a pool,
right,
you might want to have the pool and the pool equipment included. Now, obviously, that adds to the premium that the seller would have to pay.
That we're asking for them to do.
Asking. But you know, someone many years ago said if you don't have a ticket, you can't get a prize.
Right.
So ask for it, and the worst is that people can say no. We'll only do this.
And so another thing with that is it's like, think of it like a PPO insurance, to where before you call somebody to come out there and fix the problem with these warranties, you have to call the warranty company and tell them what's going on, and then they send their provider out to do it. Now, I have seen in the past, recently past, to where there are companies that are allowing you to call your own person, but that company has to call the warranty company and work out what's going to be paid on that item.
Right.
So they're again, each one's so different. You just have to look at the one that you get.
Right.
And agents will recommend them. I mean, we know the good companies. We know the ones that are proficient about coming out. We know the ones that are going to try not to pay the proceeds and just sit there and collect the warranty money.
Right.
So always ask your agent.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't think those are the main special steps that I've found that have been required. Anything that you've been in the industry for many years, what are other special steps that you've seen pop up besides obviously? Do you think in a special step it's always important to reiterate that the appliances remain behind? Because it is mentioned in the seller's property disclosure. They've ticked, and they said the refrigerator, the freezer, the microwave, the grill, or whatever. Do you think it's worthwhile?
I do.
Putting back in the special
I do. It
step?
just serves as a reminder. You did the contract with me, and you asked me why I put it in there twice. Why did I put it in the special steps, and why is it when it was already addressed in the seller's property disclosure? And it's really just as a reminder. And I'll just say, I mean, look, things happen, right? Like a friend of mine the other day, he sold a house. They were leaving the washer and dryer. The sellers loaded up all their stuff. Guess what was loaded up?
The refrigerator,
the washer and dryer. And
okay.
It ended up in North Georgia. So, they had to work out the details of was it coming back? Were they going to give her credit? Can I tell you that they would have not moved it had it been the special steps? I don't know. I just know that the more times you see things, the more times you remember things. And it's not questioning other agents or the seller. It's just as a reminder,
right?
Because look, we're all human and things happen. So I always think you cannot put too many reminders in a contract. It's just me.
Okay.
Just me. And I mean, really think about this. We're in a digital age. I mean, I'm typing it up. It's not like I'm having to handwrite this every single time. It's not a burden to put it in there as an extra precautionary move.
Right. What about days? Sometimes we have, so we go on a contract and we've stipulated maybe, 4 days for the earnest money to be deposited. Yeah. And as you said, we're busy typing away and we forget that Monday is a bank holiday or a federal holiday and everything's closed. Yeah. And that is actually our deadline day for the earnest money to go in. is there any special steps that you would recommend to ensure that if that happens, that it carries over to the next day?
So I've put that standardly before the whole COVID craziness, I always call it the unreal real estate that we went through 2020. But I always put in there that if the due diligence or whatever, anytime I ended on a Saturday or Sunday, that it moved to Monday. And the reason being, look, none of us want to track down each other on the weekends. Clients have kids that are playing ball. We've got a life too. No one wants to be tracked down at 11:39 p.m. on a Saturday or Sunday night to meet the deadline.
Right.
So I had it moved to Monday. But inside that special stipulation, I also had, if Monday's a federal holiday, then it moves to Tuesday at like 1.
Right.
So it didn't give us a whole day. It only gave us a half a day. And remember, our contracts work hours. Different states are different ways, but Georgia, the GAR contract we use, works on calendar days and not business days. So day 1 is Saturday.
Right.
Day 2 is, it depends on, right?
Right. It counts normally 1, 2, 3
Right.
from the time you go by.
So it's not Monday's 1, Tuesday, Monday through Friday, and then you skip.
Right.
And the next Monday
That
is
would be nice.
6. No, there are contracts like that.
That would be cool.
And some companies write them that way because they don't work on the weekend.
Right.
So it can be done. Standardly, ours is like that. That's why I like to move the due diligence days or whatever timelines to the Monday. I think it's fair for everybody. We're talking about moving something maybe 2 days max. And then if it goes on the holiday, it goes to Tuesday. Just covers everybody. It keeps us from having to do future amendments that moves it from Monday to Tuesday because we didn't think about the holiday. Columbus days. I'm trying to think of like days are not that the banks are closed, that we still a lot of us have to work through.
Right.
We don't think about those.
Okay. And then I think that same contract that you referred to, I remember that one.
Yeah.
There was another special step that you put in there, the yard, the lawn, and just general cleaning, because sometimes homes are vacant, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we go into spring, and all of a sudden we've got elephant grass growing here,
Right.
and the new homeowner walks in, and the first thing he has to do is go and find a lawn care company.
Right. So starting this time of the year, I will actually put that on there.
Right.
It says that the yard's cut 3 to 5 days in front of the closing. Because again, there's nothing in the contract that says it has to be.
Right.
0.
No.
So if I show up at the house and the grass is 1.5 foot tall, so it's on us.
And just what about
On my buyer. That's what I say.
yeah,
on the buyer.
The buyer's going to have.
I'm not cutting your grass.
No. No. What about just general cleanliness and the inside of the home? I know that the contract talks about
it does
the home, but do you think that is important to reiterate in special step?
I'll be honest with you with that one. No. The contract says that the house is supposed to be broom, swept, and clean. And then I do see other agents that'll ask for it to be professionally cleaned. I don't. And here's why. That house will never be clean to your own satisfaction. All of us have different degrees of what we believe professionally clean is. And so what happens is it just sets up a lot of turmoil. So we put it in there, the house was to be professionally cleaned. The buyer goes in there and they look at the drawers and there's a little bit of dust in there, not quite as clean as they thought it should be.
Then they're going to say, this is not to our standard.
That's a problem.
Right.
So I just believe that you got to know as a buyer, you're going to go clean it like you would clean it. You just go, now carpet's being cleaned, that's another thing. If you're moving into a house that had pets, I don't mind asking for carpets to be professionally cleaned. I think that's a courtesy, and I think it's, it's warranted at some point. Right. And again, you get a receipt for it. But the professionally cleaned, as far as like maids and things like that,
coming in and cleaning the bathrooms,
it's a recipe for failure.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to avoid people being unhappy in the process by building the right expectations. The right expectation. That house is never going to be as clean as I like it to be.
Right.
Especially with the OCD I have. So it just won't happen.
So we've got the special steps around septic tank, well, home warranty, termite letter, and cleanliness carrying over days to make sure that we don't find ourselves in a pickle.
Yeah.
On a Sunday afternoon. Oh, we forgot earnest money should have been, whatever it may be.
Right.
Anything else that you can think of?
I think that's a main important different houses will have different things that might require steps. Like if I want a seller's disclosure and it was not provided up front, I might have to put it that they provide that within so many days, or the community association agreement, or legal descriptions. There's things that I could build in there that might not have been readily available at the time, but I want within a certain timeline.
Right. Two things that came to my mind is that I noticed that when we go onto a listing and you look for the documents, it seems as if the default that people will upload is the seller's property disclosure and the HOA or the community disclosure, right? And if it was built prior to 1978, they'll do the lead-based paint. But what I find, majority of cases, when there is a listing of a piece of property that is in an HOA community, that the listing agent doesn't find and upload the
covenants and
restrictions. And my question is, why not?
So a lot of the HOAs today have that online.
Okay.
So you can find the link and go to the link and click it, because honestly, it's some of them are 50, 100 pages long. Some of them are only 20.
Right.
So to upload that and to scan it, and our system is not very accommodating for large files. So it makes it very difficult to just have that readily available online. Now, some people will leave it out the house.
Right.
But of course, you don't really have time to read it at the house. You're typically in and out of a house in less than 45 minutes.
Right.
So, that's a external request, that we can send either as a drive link, but they are large documents. Yes. So it's very hard to do that.
So if you are representing the buyer, as an example, and as part of the HOA, as a courtesy for your client, get hold of the property manager. Like you said, maybe there's a website. Go and either send a link or download, or maybe even reach out to the property manager to send it.
That kind of falls inside that due diligence timeline too. That's part of that due diligence. That is part of the thing you need to be doing, is reviewing and finding the docs and looking at them and making sure that you're okay with them.
Yeah, because there may be something in there that you actually don't totally agree with. So, for example,
maybe I have a trailer.
Yeah,
and it's a 2-car garage, and I don't have anywhere to put it. And it says I can't keep it on the house. Well, now I got to plan on where am I going to put it? Yeah.
What about rentals? Because some HOAs just forbid rentals. So reading through your covenants and restrictions and understanding the limitations could potentially be a deciding factor for you.
And on the backside of that now with Airbnb and VRBO, you've really got to check out not just the neighborhood, but also like the city ordinances, because now you've got counties and cities that are not allowing Airbnbs. So you've got to really do your research if you're going to be an Airbnber, and rentals for that case. Because there are some, like I did one the other day that was in South Fulton County, and it only allowed 20% of the neighborhood to be rentals.
Right. Yeah, well, I know that our subdivision, we actually put in an addendum that said no more. If you were grandfathered in, great, but if you had to leave, that could not become a rental. So basically, the homeowner either has to move into the home or sell it.
Correct.
And I know that may sound a little bit unjust, but that's the covenants. Right. So check that out. There was another one that I thought of, and that's the HVAC. So a lot of people just let the HVACs just run. They may change the filters if they remember twice a year or at the season, maybe. And now it comes to selling, and as someone that's representing a buyer, I would request that there is some form of proof that the HVAC has been serviced within a certain period of time.
So now I'm going to ask you, what would you do if it had not?
Ask for it to be serviced.
Okay, so that would be a step that you would put in there.
Yes.
Or it's addressed in the amendment to address concerns once you've had the house inspected. The inspector comes back and says, I can't tell. You would ask them to have it serviced. Now, I will tell you that look, I love the inspectors, but to be absolute experts at every single portion, I don't know. They're checking it on the surface. So I don't think it's a bad idea to always ask for the, whether you're in the heating system or the year part of the year or the cooling part of the year, just have it serviced. Just, a lot of places you can find for $8,900 and have the unit serviced.
Yeah, so even doing that as part of your pre-listing,
Yes,
your
correct.
own personal checklist,
Yep.
because I think a lot of sellers say, well, let's just wait and we'll wait for the amendment to address property concerns. And now all of a sudden they've got this bucket list.
Yeah.
So there are a few things that you can do before you list it, like having your HVAC done,
Right.
perhaps having the termites done, or whatever. Have a couple of these things, and they're not going to cost you an arm and a leg.
No, but it's just doing the right things to have your house ready to put on the market.
Right.
And then that way it's also, like you just said, it's delaying it's getting in front of the inevitable.
Right.
So that you probably have to do it. So just go ahead and do it. Leave the receipts out. Again, you're giving the buyer peace of mind that they're coming into a good house. They're paying good money for the house that's in good condition.
Yeah, because they appreciate the fact that the owner's actually taking care to do certain things. And these are pain points that as a buyer, when you're moving in, that you may have to take care of yourself straight away off the bat.
They're big ticket items.
Yeah, they're big ticket items.
So that's the big thing that people want to avoid are big ticket items.
Right.
So, small stuff we can all kind of handle, but, roofs, HVACs, a septic system, big ticket item. But termites, big ticket item if you got them.
If you got them.
So, I think that about covers. Almost all the special steps. That, again, you'll have things that come up throughout the transaction. Each house is different. You can't just carte blanche cover every single one of them.
Right.
I've written special steps that are 1 to like 2 pages long. So it just depends. Just, like I said, each one is different. You have to just handle it as you get to it.
Yep. Got it. Well, I think that covers the special steps.
Yeah.
So I know that we were talking about this earlier on. It's sometimes difficult to come up with topics, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we want to extend an invitation to people that are watching, and we know that you do, are there any topics that you'd like to discuss or perhaps even be a guest on our webinar?
Come sit with us.
Come sit with us. Maybe you're a business owner, you've just opened up something new, maybe you're a service provider.
Yeah.
We'd love to have a chat and shoot the breeze with you over a cup of coffee.
Hey, it doesn't have to be real estate.
No.
If you want to start talking about the weather for the next 30 days, we can do that.
Yeah, maybe we should get Glenn, what's his name? Glenn Burns.
Yeah, he just retired, didn't he?
He's retired.
Yeah.
Maybe as part of this, why don't you just have a like or something, put the thumbs up and say, yeah, let's see if we can get Glenn Burns
Yeah,
on.
Glenn Burns, let's get him down.
Let's see if we can get him on.
He's been an Atlanta icon for as long as I don't want to say how old I am. I'm old. Since I was a kid.
Yeah, he's a legend, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I took a picture of the pink moon 2 years ago, and I sent it to Glenn.
Yes.
My mother-in-law, she phoned and said, hey, why don't you send this to Glenn?
Yeah.
He got it on
wow.
television for me.
Wow.
So maybe it would be a good idea to just shoot the breeze with him for a little while.
Yeah, because I was looking at something just the other, and this is weather stuff, right? We're gonna end this real quick. But the first part of this month started off above average.
Yes.
10 days it was hotter than it had been. The last 10 days has been colder than it's been.
Right.
Averaged out to normal.
And now we're gonna get rain again.
Yeah, but we went
average out.
We went unnormal, and it averages out to normal. How about that?
Well, do you think this is the last week that's going to be cold?
Yeah, I think, yeah. Welcome to summer in Georgia. It's probably going to go right from this to summer.
So it's time for the pool.
Time to open it up.
So,
you're not gonna, and your plants are fine. You're not going to see any more 30s. They're gone. That's just my.
I don't mind the cold weather.
Yeah, I think March 26th was about the last time. It snowed one time when I was a kid. That was about then, but after that, it's never been cold again. So.
Well, thank you, Steve.
No, thanks, Mark.
All right.
It's always a pleasure.
We hope to see you next week Thursday again.
Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah.
And then, hey,